What's up, people? The world champion Lucas Domarayu is in a very bad streak, and in the last tournament that he played, he lost 3 games and he drew the other 4, so he ended in the last position of the Chennai Masters. And in this video, we're going to analyze what is happening with Lucas. Okay, his first loss of the tournament was against Alireza Firuza, who was later the winner of the tournament. So okay, let's analyze the game. Firuza started with e5, 45, and Lucas came with the martial defense. With black, he used to play or e5 or Caro-Kann, maybe more e5. b5, bishop b3, sword castle, h3. After h3, okay, the main line of the marshal is c3, d5. There are many moves for white. For example, I employ a4 in many of my games. But okay, h3 by Firuza. And here, d5 is a possibility, but I'm not a huge fan of this move. But okay, it's playable. If you have knowledge of that move, it's maybe playable, but I'm not a huge fan of this pawn sacrifice here. Of course, with the pawn on c3, d5 is better, but with the pawn on h3, I'm not a huge fan of this pawn sacrifice. So bishop b7 by Firuza, d3, and here I prefer d5. Because when you play bishop b7 and your opponent plays the pawn on d3, especially with the pawn on c2, the bishop on b7 is bad place, it's not good place. Okay, it's true that here bishop b7 is the best move, but now I like to play d5. So I think that when you place the bishop on b7 in this type of position in the Spanish is to break with d5. Because if not, the bishop on b7 is not going to be very good place in this position. So this is the most critical move, but if you know the theory, it's the best move. I employ that move in some of my games and I really like it. e6, okay, it's playable, keeping the position close is a different approach, but with the bishop on b7, I don't like this move and the pawn on d3. So yes, I don't recommend this move of Lucas. I'm not going to say that it's a positional mistake, because okay, there are many games with that, but I don't like that. Bishop d2, and now knight b8, good maneuver. The knight is bad place on c6, and now knight a5 is not possible, so a good maneuver. Then I should go to d7 to open the bishop and be able to play c5. So a4, knight bd7, knight c3 by Firuza. A good move, attacking the pawn. And here, the best option is very common in this type of position in the marshal. I was this theme many times. Play here knight c5, giving the b5 pawn, but capturing the b3 bishop. Pawn takes, knight takes. I saw this type of position many times. With black, you give the b5 pawn, but in counter of that, you capture on b3. Pawn takes, a takes, knight b5, and now bishop a6, and you can recapture the pawn with bishop takes d3. So knight c5 was the strongest move. c6 by Lucas, another small concession. A takes, takes, and now great move by Firuza, knight h5. Firuza until here was playing perfect. e6, and he still continue with the initiative, because white needs the initiative, because if not, the pawn structure is symmetrical and black have more space in the queen side. So white should react fast. Bishop h6 with tempo, and now queen f3. The queen is great here because the pawn on f7 is a huge weakness. If the knight goes to f6, black is going to lose. So queen f3, great move. Bishop f8, because now started to defend very well. Now knight a3, queen e3, sorry. Here white is slightly better thanks to the queen and the bishop. The white queen and the white bishops. And the white bishop are better than the black queen and the black bishop. So here white is slightly better thanks to these both pieces. Queen d8, improving the queen, good move. Queen h6, knight h5, bishop a2. Bishop here now, another good move, knight h3. The idea is play knight g5 and maybe one day attack on h7. And here, b4 by Lucas is not the best. It's very typical on Lucas' play that he tried to solve his problems with concrete play and with calculations instead of just make good positional moves. Because I'm completely sure that a player of the style of Magnus never played before, because you are giving a hole on c4. But Lucas tried to solve everything with tactics, but the problem is that this strategy is not giving him good results. Of course, it's important to calculate well in chess, and sometimes you need to solve your problems with tactic. But who cares, maybe he used so much this type of resource, try to solve everything with calculation and try to calculate so much instead of just understand the position. So here is queen e7. I'm sure that Magnus Carlsen will play queen e7 more or less easy. Just improving the pieces, maybe bishop e6 is coming, and everything is more or less normal. But this is a bad way to solve the position, creating more weaknesses. And knight here. Now the b4 square is for the knight. Queen a5, bishop c4, so b3. Maybe we can believe that this could solve his problem, but it's very strange. Bishop b3, knight b3, cb3, and white is just pawn up. Black tries to recapture the pawn, but let's see that the black queen is so far from the black king. This is not a good idea. Knight d3, queen b3, and here Firuza misses the winning idea. He should play with knight g1 to then play with knight f1, rook e3, and rook f3. For that reason, bishop e6 or bishop d7 followed by rook a8 is the only defense to doesn't lose the game instantly. For example, if queen d3, queen d3 doesn't work as rook d1, but for example, if queen b2, knight f1, and this is the winning plan. White is winning here because the black queen cannot came to defend the knight. Just white is going to attack the knight, and if the knight goes back, the a7 pawn is hanging with checkmate. So knight g5 followed by knight f1, rook e3, rook d3, rook f3 was the strongest plan. Kuket had an idea here to defend just with bishop g4, very hard to play. And all of this fourth line. But okay, Firuza of course is putting pressure here. He has extra piece for 2 pawns. So Firuza misses the winning idea. He played queen h4, attacking the knight. King g7 looks very natural, just improving the pieces. Maybe he was afraid about some knight f5, but just he can capture with the bishop. Okay, knight h5. Again, maybe a strange move. And now, with black, you are worse in this position. Black, white has this 2 knights very well. Your rook is in the initial square, not the initial, but your queen is a little bit. All the black pieces are like so far one of each other. She have the queen side, the knight in the king side, the d6 pawn weak, the c6 pawn weak, and white looks perfectly fine. And instead of play a solid move like queen e6, which is a good positional move, just keeping all his pieces close and together, he makes just queen e6 and just queen c7, queen d7, trying to trade queens, and black is more or less fine. Instead of that, he goes for the aggressive knight f4, but in this position you can play like this, just queen d6, knight d3. And Kuket played very strange this part of the game. Just queen e6 looks very natural, but play knight f4 to capture on d3 is very strange, because now the knight is hanging on d3, the e5 pawn is hanging, the c6 pawn is hanging, so every black pawn and piece is hanging, so it's no really sense. Just here rook e2 was better. Rook b1 played by Firuza was enough to good advantage. f6, another strange positional move, just opening your own king. And knight d2, great move. Now after f6, the knight is misplaced on f3. So after knight d2, the queen is under attack. Queen b5 and knight dc4. Rook a1 was stronger, followed by rook a8, winning for white. Instead of that, Firuza, okay. The problem is that Firuza reaches a completely winning position after many mistakes of Kuket. But Firuza doesn't start to fail a little bit in this part of the game, and he doesn't finish the game yet. So queen b5, rook knight dc4, knight f4, king e2, bishop e6, rook c1, bishop c4. Again, another bad move by Firuza. And sorry by Kuket. It's a positional mistake, of course. Just give your bishop, who is defending your king, for a knight, because white have 2 knights and you just have 1 knight and a bishop. So it's better to keep the different piece in the board, who is the bishop. So bishop takes c4, bad move. And here Firuza fail again. He should play rook c4, completely forgetting the b2 pawn, but going against the black king. Just you can take just knight g4, and the black king is going to death. By the way, sometimes it's useful to keep pawns in both sides, because just keep pawns in one side of the board could make the position harder to win. But in this specific position, white is giving checkmate to the black king. rook f7, before. I don't understand why Firuza doesn't play before. Because okay, knight takes e4, I understand the move. He's defending b2. But here, b4 is very, very, very natural. I can understand rook c2. Before just advancing your pawn. Okay, rook c2. And now Guess failed again. He played queen b3 and trying to solve everything with tactics, but he failed tactics. 93, and now the c6 pawn is lost. He should play queen a4, attacking the rook, keeping the knight under attack, and keeping another eye on the c6 pawn. Queen b3, just 93, and Guess lost the c pawn. But okay, Firuza had some troubles to win this winning position. Rook c7 just trading pieces, but again he should just give the pawn and go for the black king was the best strategy. Okay, here looks more or less clear that this strategy works. Now, great, with the queen on d8, after knight g4 the black queen cannot defend f6. So rook c7 again, forgetting the pawn and going for the king was the best option. Queen e8 by Guques. Again, queen e1 was the best by Guques. And this is a typical move of Guques, who tries to solve everything with this type of moves. Rook c8 and now 92 waiting for black. So yeah, very interesting, this queen e1, rook e7. Now okay, they trade queens. Here, rook b3 is very important to not allow the white pawn to advance. Again, it's a huge positional mistake. Another move that I'm completely sure that a good positional player should make more or less easy. Rook b3, not allowing the b pawn to advance. And then the game will have no good level. 96, rook b3 is a clear move. Knight b6, and of course, white advance his pawn if he can advance. Rook c6, king here b5, just still advancing. Here this was stronger, rook c7. Okay, and they reach this knight hanging. Okay, objectively was not a draw, but a holdable for black. But here Guques failed, and he should play knight c5. Instead of that, he played knight d2. The idea is attack e4 and not allow the white king going to f3. But the problem of knight d2 was knight f6, king here, and now king g4, going for the h7 pawn. This was the idea, taking these 2 pawns, and the disposition of the 2 pawns against one is winning for white. Because okay, one day white can give the knight for the pawn and run with the other 2. The problem of, here, knight c5 was stronger because king f3, king knight d7, and after all this line, who is, okay, I don't know, more or less easy to calculate, is a draw. But okay, they haven't so much time in the clock. Instead of that, he played 92, which is bad. Of course, after knight f6, here Firuza was winning with king g4. Again, he failed again with king f2. And Guques failed again. This is a game plenty of mistakes. This is a very bad game to be between 2 elite players, and especially for a world champion. Here, h5 was bad, because the pawn on h5, it's not that the pawn is weak, but the problem is that the king has this path to enter and capture the pawns. It was stronger h6 here. For example, 97, king c7, 94, king c7 or king c6, 95, 94, king here. And now the pawn is safer on h6. So if the pawn was on h5, I could play king f4, king g5, and capture the pawn or something like that, which is what happened in the game. But the pawn on h6 was safer and could give the half of the half point. So king f2, h5, knight d7, king c7, and now Firuza finally managed to convert well the advantage. And this is like the other position, but now with the pawn on h5, white can play king f4 and king g5, capturing both black pawns and winning the game. So okay, very, very bad game by both sides. Firuza played well the first part of the game, but he misses like 7 or 8 victories. In one case, by his way, he lost the game like 17. So horrible positional game of Guques. Okay, I make these videos trying to analyze what is happening with him and why he's losing so many games. And I think that his principal mistake is that, okay, first he doesn't understand really well the chess as a world champion should make, and he tried to solve everything with calculation. But this technique doesn't really work, especially without huge so big time controls. For example, in the World Champions and in the Candidates Tournament, okay, Lucas play one World Champion match and another Candidates Tournament, and he won both. The time control are bigger and they have more time in the clock. But in this type of tournament, who the time control they haven't the same time as in the candidates, and when the time controls are shorter, maybe Lucas and his plan of just calculate and try to solve everything with calculation doesn't really work. And for shorter time travels, maybe it's better to just understand better the game. So okay, I'm going to analyze another two games of Lucas in this tournament, one against Erigaisi and the other one against Pranes. So okay, let's see if in the rest of the game they make the same mistakes. Bye bye.